Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do a favourites video for the winter months, particularly focusing on January, February, because I had promised myself that I am going to be much more on it when it comes to doing seasonal favourites videos. I know that these are not typically like the most popular videos that I do on my channel, but I do think it is nice to go back and look at some of the things that maybe were bookish but mostly were non-bookish that I was really enjoying, that were just making me happy. I think these end up getting pushed back because there's always like other videos that I want to film. I also often end up just forgetting to edit these videos and then they never get uploaded and it's all a bit of a mess. But I recently was watching Hannah from Hannah's Books. She did a video about things that are just making her happy right now, and I mean obviously her video was like very thoughtful and very poignant and just heartwarming, and I don't think my video is going to be any of those things, but it just reminded me that it is sometimes nice to take a break from the books and just, you know, delight in other things that make you happy. If nothing else, I want this video to just be a massive plug to that video of Hannah's. It was absolutely beautiful. I was tearing up at moments. Mine I feel like is going to be a little bit more silly and a little bit more frivolous, but I hope it's just like nice and calm and relaxing for you. I do say it's mainly non-bookish things that have been my favourites, but I did want to give a shout out to some books that I've really loved in January, February. To be honest with you, at time of filming it is actually the 18th of February, so you know, in the next like 10 days there may be other books that I absolutely love and I'll be thinking, why didn't you include them, Charlotte? But for now I do have 3 books that I just couldn't narrow it down to. I've enjoyed all of these books for different reasons and I just really recommend them. The first one being Wearing My Mother's Heart by Sophia Thakur. This is her second poetry collection and it is just absolutely stunning. I did a whole review video of this which I will link down below, just particularly looking at her parents and her grandparents, looking at the world from their perspective, opening up a dialogue between generations past and present to reflect upon her own life and her own experiences, and it's just stunning. Very different track we have Love on the Brain by Hazelwood, which is a romance book and was just such good fun. Whenever I've mentioned this, I've mentioned it in conjunction to the context of reading this, which was I read this the weekend following the show that I was in, which more about later, and it was my first weekend in quite a while that was completely free and I didn't have to be anywhere, I didn't have to do anything, and I took full advantage of that. And I basically just spent all weekend reading romance books and it was so much fun. This was definitely my favourite of the 2 that I read. I had such a good time with this. Once again, I have filmed a review video where I'm looking at this as well as 2 other romance books. Either it is up already or it will be up. I will link down below for you that video when it is up. And then the very first book I read this year was A Terrible Kindness by Jo Browning-Wroe. Historical fiction predominantly set in the 1950s, 1960s, looking at the life of a young man who is an embalmer who had been called out to the Aberfan disaster to look after and prepare the bodies of the children who had been killed in that disaster, but also using that event as a way of kind of reflecting on his past, particularly his upbringing as a boy chorister and his relationship to his family, and how all of these events have just kind of culminated together to make him the man that he is in the 1960s. I can't really do this book justice. I did film a review video of it and I don't know how well I was able to get across my feelings about that book, but once it is up I will link it down below for you. It's just, once again, a beautiful book. Now I've talked about my favourite books, let's get into the non-bookish things, which is what you're here for. So the main thing that happened to me in the winter season is that I was performing in a production of Evita. I was in an Amjam production of this at the Oxford Playhouse and I just had the best time. I definitely think of the 3 shows that I've done whilst I've been in Oxford so far, which are My Fair Lady, Calendar Girls and now Evita. This is by far my favourite show that I've done. I just had such a good time, particularly just being mesmerised by our principals. 2 of my friends in the society were actually playing Ava and Che and I was just, every single rehearsal, just looking at them with like heart eyes and like, oh, my friends are so talented, to a point that was probably a little bit creepy for them, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just enthusiastic, that's all it is. The audiences seemed to really enjoy it. We had almost full houses every single night. The reactions that we got were just amazing and I had a proper show hangover afterwards. I was just like, I was feeling so sad and like I had a proper loss in my life once the show was done. I found myself the night afterwards, it got to about 7:30 and I started like preparing myself to do like our movement for Requiem. Then I realised I had the song New Argentina, which is the last song in Act 1, which has some little dance moves that we do, and I felt myself like actually doing them at that time of night, but you know, in my bedroom as opposed to on the stage. So the show has really seeped into my bones. To be honest with you, Evita was a show that I didn't really know much about before I was in it, so I didn't know what to expect from it, but I just, like I say, had a fantastic time. I'm just so proud of what we did. Of course, part of being in a show is having to do your stage makeup, so I have a couple of things that were helping me along the way. I generally wear a full face of makeup most of the time anyway, so when it comes to like amping it up for shows, there are, you know, a few options I can go for. One of them is to wear a slightly slightly more high coverage foundation, and the one that I've been using is the Revolution in Real Life filter. Longwear foundation, a breathable soft matte finish, oil-free 16-hour wear. I'm actually wearing it today and I really like the finish of it. It's definitely a little bit more high coverage than I usually go for, but that's really good for a show. The thing about it, of course, is that I don't really like to waste product, so I am kind of wearing it day to day now, and it's probably a little bit too much for every day, but it just kind of makes me feel like a doll, so can't hate it. And considering it's such an inexpensive foundation, I feel like it goes on really nicely. I've used this both with a Real Techniques complexion sponge as well as with my fingers, and I think it blends really well both ways. I don't tend to use brushes for applying foundation, so I can't speak to that. I also was a bit silly, and the first time that I bought this, I bought it in F3, which was way too pale for me. I then couldn't find F4, the next step up, so I bought F5. This is definitely a little bit too dark for me, but it does match perfectly with the places on my face where my freckles are more prominent, so my nose and my forehead and like right around here. So the way that I'm applying it at the moment is I'm using F5 here, a little bit on my chin, and then I'm blending F3 and F5 together and then applying it everywhere else. I have since been able to find F4, so once I've used both of these up, I will eventually move on to that. But I also probably should be using a lower coverage foundation for every day. But I don't know, this just really works, and I didn't find myself getting like really sweaty in this foundation when I was running up and down the stairs in the show. I think it lasts very well. The other very new thing to me that came with doing this show was I wore some false eyelashes, and you can't see them because they're actually in here, but I played around with a couple of pairs of false eyelashes, which is not something that I typically wear. In fact, the last time that I wore false eyelashes prior to this year was for my sixth form prom, which was like 10 years ago. That was the first and up until this point only time that I'd use false eyelashes. They kind of scare me, but I thought for the purposes of the show it might be worth trying them out. I actually really like the way that they looked on stage. It's not a look that I would wear every day. You know, I commend you if you were able to be comfortable wearing false eyelashes every day, but like I'm not somebody who typically can feel makeup on my skin. Like I often hear people say, oh, I can't wear a full face of makeup, my skin feels like it can't breathe, it's really heavy. Like the makeup I'm wearing right now, I can't feel this. There is nothing like unbreathable or heavy about what I'm wearing right now. Maybe it's because I'm used to it, but to be honest with you, looking back at when I was a teenager and working out how to use makeup for the first time, I didn't notice it then. But I can feel false eyelashes for the first hour after I've put them on, which is why they're probably not the best thing for me to use every day. Also, I just generally don't think it's very good to have eyelash glue on your eyes like 24/7. I could definitely feel my eyes just being a little bit irritated towards the end of show week. But you know, for every so often use, I actually really quite like the look of these. So the ones that I have here are the 0.15 light and wispy ones, which just kind of look like spiders right there. But I think my favourite ones I used were the 008 ones, which are also light and wispy. They're from Eyelure. They are the 3/4 length because I find that easier to apply than the full length. They were on for a good 12 hours. I never felt them moving, but they were also really easy to take off, which was my main worry about wearing false eyelashes, was that they're just going to rip my actual natural lashes off. But I didn't have any issues with these. Really like them. Just, you know, not for everyday use. A little fashion favourite of mine, which is something that I've been wearing quite often, but you wouldn't be able to see it because it is on the bottom half and you only ever get to see the top half of me, is this gorgeous skirt. This absolutely beautiful midi skirt that I got on sale at Uniqlo. I always think of Uniqlo as having just very like utilitarian, just, you know, kind of your core basics. I would not have expected that they would have such a gorgeous skirt. I know it's like plain, it doesn't have a pattern, but this feels like a nice statement thing. I was in Uniqlo picking up something that was actually going to be useful for me. More about that later. But then I saw this, like I say, my size in the sale, tried it on, I thought it looked really good, so I couldn't say no to this, and this has just improved my life. It has really lovely movement to it. If you look in my January vlog, you'll see a clip of me like spinning around in this. This is like a perfect skirt if you are a dancer and are wanting to do like proper West Side Story spins. And every time I wear it, I just feel like a princess, which I think all clothes should make you feel like that, quite frankly. I think probably because it was in the sale, you wouldn't be able to find it online or anything. But just my general recommendation, wear things that make you feel special. As I say, I was in Uniqlo looking for something that was actually going to be useful to my life, not frivolous. I was in there because I was looking for some things that would help me with cycling. So you may have seen once again from my vlogs that I have started cycling to work. I am slowly but surely getting there. I am not a natural cyclist, but because of where I have moved to, you know, it's not terrible in terms of public transport, but I feel like on a morning it's a bit of a nightmare. Allegedly, there is a bus that passes right outside of my house and drops you off right outside of my work. I, however, have never been able to find this bus at the time that I need to get to work, which is between 8 and 9 o'clock. I've seen it exist outside of those hours, but never when I need it in the morning. So with that in mind, and also the fact that I now live with one of my colleagues who is a bike rider, she was really insisting, no Charlotte, you need to experience the Oxford life of cycling everywhere. And at the moment I am literally just cycling to work and back. I have not been straying further than that because I'm not very confident and my sense of direction is terrible, but slowly but surely we are getting there. I knew that I needed to get a few things that were just going to make life a little bit easier for me while cycling, particularly clothing that was going to make it easier for me, because I started cycling back in December when it was absolutely freezing. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to start cycling in minus temperatures. I think in the back of my mind I was like, well, cycling will be your New Year's resolution and it's probably good to get started on your New Year's resolutions in December because then you've actually conquered like that learning curve. But the thing is about riding in minus temperatures when you're not used to it, is that I got ill. I got ill and it lasted all through Christmas, probably because I was not used to the experience of having like cold air hitting the back of my throat for 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back every day. And I just was not geared up for riding a bike. Whilst I was back home, I went to an outdoor sports shop, which is a kind of shop that I never go into, and I think they could tell that I was not one of them. But I got like this little headband that just goes over your head and you can wear it under a bike helmet in order to keep your ears nice and warm. So just like that, and like I say, it fits really well under a bike helmet, and my ears are the first thing to get cold and it just ruins my entire day, so this was essential. I also have this little snud that you put on like fleece side first, but then it has this bit that you can put over your mouth for if it is a bit too cold, and this underneath like my normal coat scarf has been really, really handy, as well as this little thermal from Uniqlo. I do think I need to buy some more of these though, because as I have discovered, get very, very sweaty when I'm on a bike, and this is the only thermal that I have, so I need to go back to Uniqlo and get more. But it's really good, keeps me nice and warm, and it also, like I say, gets off all of the sweat so that I can put my actual clothes on when I get to work. It does a great service for me every time I cycle to work. In terms of some other media favourites, to be honest with you, I don't really have any film and TV recommendations because I haven't really been watching any film and TV. Like I say, my January was entirely booked out by Avita, and I'm just kind of like getting back into the swing of things in February. I will say, started watching the new season of Called Midwife. That is how you know that I'm really behind on TV and television, is that I have only now started watching this season. Usually I am there every single Sunday when the new season is on. It's one of my favourite TV shows of all time. In fact, in terms of like a consistent television show that never misses and just gets better and better, Called Midwife is probably my favourite actually. But I'm only like 3 episodes into this season of 8, so probably can't give you like a true honest recommendation, even though, like I say, Called Midwife never misses. It is such a beautiful, heartwarming, lovely show. But a podcast recommendation that I absolutely have to tell you about is Pod and Prejudice, which, as the title might suggest, is a Jane Austen themed podcast. You have Becca, who is a massive fan of Jane Austen. You then have Molly, who has never read a word of Jane Austen. And the premise is very simple. They go 2 chapters at a time through different works of Jane Austen. And it's basically Becca guiding Molly through it, Molly reacting to it. They just have such an amazing, lovely dynamic. And to be honest with you, it's a kind of podcast style that I really like one expert, one novice. They started off with reading Pride and Prejudice, then did a few of the adaptations. They then moved on to Sense and Sensibility, the book, and then its adaptations. And now they are on Emma, which is, I mean, Pride and Prejudice is my favourite Jane Austen, but Emma is the one that I always get really excited when I hear people are reading for the first time. Also with a bit of nervous anticipation, because I know that Emma can be not Marmite, because I think there are more people who love it than hate it, but I know that it can be a little bit divisive, and they seem to be really enjoying it so far. But they're just really, really funny. Their camaraderie is so great, and Molly's commentary on these books is just so fantastic. I'm just annoyed that I'm all caught up with it now though, because now I have to wait 2 weeks for an episode to drop, and I just want them all now. Then my final favourite is a food favourite. Not only a food favourite, but it is a sweets favourite. That is my discovery of Haribo Sour Sparks. This is something that I discovered during show week. Basically these like sour, chewy gummy sweets in the shape of lightning bolts, and they are amazing and delicious, and I love them very, very much. And it's kind of bad that I've discovered this, because now every time I do a Tesco food shop I have to put a packet of these in my shop. There are 3 flavours: raspberry and pineapple, cola and lemon, and apple and cherry, and I love them all. They were really, really great actually during Avita, because I would have a couple of these before going on stage for some of our non-singing movement bits. So particularly for Buenos Aires, where the energy had to be really high but we weren't going to be doing any singing. Typically it's not very good to eat a lot of sugar before you go on and sing. thing. But for those kind of scenes particularly, I was playing a school child, so I thought, you know what, I think a little sweet treat is exactly what I need before I go on and play a very hyper child. And yeah, they're just my new favourite thing, and it's very bad, and I think my dentist is going to hate me for it, but I can't deny myself the truth, which is that these are just very, very tasty. So there we go, those are all the things that have been really making me very happy in the winter months. I would absolutely love to hear about anything similar that has been making you happy, be that books, film and TV, theatre, beauty, YouTube videos, podcast episodes, or just a miscellaneous thing. Do let me know. I am very much hoping to make these a seasonal thing, so maybe something that you recommend might be on a future seasonal favourites video. Who knows? I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.